Welcome to the deep dive. I'm so glad you're joining us today.
Absolutely, it's great to be here.
If you are anything like me, you are constantly seeing these wild, explosive headlines pop up on your feed, and you just want a shortcut to the actual reality of the situation without having to spend hours going down a rabbit hole.
Right, the endless scrolling.
Exactly.
Ah,
Well, you are in the right place. Today, we've got a truly fascinating source to dig into. We are looking at a highly detailed transcript from a YouTube video by a channel called The Prime Expedition. And the title of this video, get this, is Meghan Markle, $100 million in debt and just got sentenced, goodbye forever.
yeah, it is a title engineered for absolute maximum impact.
It really is.
And it perfectly captures the extreme nature of the digital media ecosystem we're analyzing today. I mean, the sheer scale of those claims makes it a perfect case study.
Totally. So our mission for this deep dive is to completely bypass that extreme clickbait. Spoiler alert for you right up front. No, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are not in $100 million of debt. And nobody is going to prison. Instead, we're going to look at the actual business, financial, and reputational realities facing the couple right now as of early 2026.
Which is a much more interesting story anyway.
Oh, absolutely. But it is really important to lay out a very clear disclaimer to you, the listener, before we really get into the weeds here.
Yes, very important.
The source material we're unpacking touches on highly politically charged themes. We know that progressives and conservatives often view this couple through entirely different lenses.
Right, they use their story as a proxy for much larger cultural debates.
Exactly. So we want to make it abundantly clear that we are strictly neutral here. We take absolutely no sides.
None at all.
Our goal is simply to convey the sociological, financial, and factual analysis that's provided in our source material.
And what's genuinely compelling here is that the real story isn't the celebrity gossip itself. The real story is the mechanics of media algorithms. It's the surprisingly harsh realities of Hollywood economics and the underlying psychology of why audiences, maybe even you, find it so difficult to scroll past these exaggerated narratives.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Starting with the most explosive claims in that YouTube title. We have to look at where the headlines about being $100 million in debt and being sentenced actually originate.
Because there's always a seed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If these claims are completely fabricated, there has to be some tiny seed of truth that algorithmic content creators are twisting to get away with it.
It really comes down to a fundamental public misunderstanding of how massive entertainment deals actually function. That $100 million figure being thrown around as debt, that was actually the reported upper limit value of their 2020 Netflix deal.
Right.
In the entertainment industry, when a streaming company announces a massive headline number like $100 million, that is not a personal paycheck handed directly to the talent.
People just assume they get a briefcase full of cash.
Exactly. But it represents the total amount the network plans to spend over several years to fund an entire production slate. That money covers the physical production budget.
Like the actual making of the shows.
Right. We're talking about paying the camera crews, the marketing teams, the development costs, the catering, the lighting, and the staff salaries at their production company, Archwell Productions.
So it's more like being approved for a massive business loan to build a factory, rather than winning the lottery. You don't just put that money in your personal bank account.
Precisely. Industry standard estimates suggest that the personal compensation, the actual take-home pay that goes to the talent, usually lands somewhere between 10% and 25% of that total reported value.
Got it.
And even that smaller percentage is spread out over several years, tied to the delivery of specific projects.
Right, so it's not all at once.
It is substantial compensation, absolutely, but it falls dramatically short of the headline figures. So treating that $100 million production budget as personal cash and then somehow twisting it into a personal debt when the production deal nears its end.
It's just factually baseless.
Exactly. It didn't need to be paid back because it was never a personal loan.
Which brings us to the word sentenced.
Ah, yeah.
That is a very specific, very heavy legal term. But according to the source, Meghan Markle has absolutely no criminal charges.
None.
There has been no trial, no criminal judgment, and no punishment imposed by a judge anywhere. So the algorithmic strategy here seems to be taking real-world legal friction and just blowing it up into criminal drama.
Because content creators have learned that legal buzzwords spark immediate visceral emotion before a viewer even has time to process the information.
Right, you see sentenced and you click.
Words connected to crime, punishment, and finality drive watch time far more effectively than accurate descriptions of civil litigation. The clickbait preys on the fact that Prince Harry does have ongoing legal battles in the UK.
Right, civil battles.
Right. He has a privacy case against a newspaper publisher scheduled for trial in 2026, and he has a highly publicized appeal over the withdrawal of his publicly funded UK security.
But in both of those situations, he's the plaintiff. He is the one bringing the case to the court. He is not sitting at a defense table fighting off criminal accusations.
Exactly. Civil proceedings carry financial and reputational stakes. You might have to pay legal fees or damages, but you do not face criminal penalties or sentencing.
But the algorithm doesn't care about the difference?
Not at all. When viewers see dramatic words like sentence tied to a famous face, they have a physiological reaction. They click.
Yeah.
That reaction feeds the algorithm, which then aggressively pushes the video to a wider audience.
Which in turn incentivizes creators to use even more extreme framing on their next video.
It's a massive feedback loop of misinformation.
It really is. But while the criminal and dead claims are entirely fiction, the source material does point out that the couple is facing a very real, very complex crisis behind the scenes.
A very significant one.
Let's look at the PR and staffing exodus, because this is where the facade really starts to crack. The source highlights a staggering statistic. Over the past 5 years, Harry and Meghan have gone through 11 publicists.
Oh.
If you are running a restaurant, to give you an analogy, and you go through 11 head chefs in 5 years, that tells the entire industry that the kitchen is a highly volatile environment with constantly shifting expectations.
That is a perfect analogy, because public relations professionals at this elite level are explicitly trained to manage crises and handle difficult, demanding personalities.
That's their entire job description.
Exactly. So when that many seasoned experts decide the position is no longer viable, it points to systemic internal issues rather than just a string of bad luck.
Yeah, that's not a coincidence.
The source provides a very specific timeline to illustrate the severity of this. In March 2025, they hired Meredith Main as their chief communications officer.
And she's a heavy hitter.
Oh, absolutely. This is an executive with 2 decades of top-tier experience, including senior leadership roles at Google and Hulu. She was highly respected in the industry and was brought in specifically to stabilize their media operation.
Yet she stepped down in December 2025. She lasted only 10 months in the role.
Just 10 months.
And that wasn't an isolated incident. Around the same time, their US-based PR firm, Method Communications, which had only been hired in June 2025, chose not to renew its contract.
What followed that departure was highly unusual in the celebrity ecosystem.
Really?
Yeah. Entertainment reporter Rob Shooter noted that several top American PR agencies reportedly flat-out refused to take them on as clients.
Wow.
These agencies viewed the couple as incredibly high maintenance, but unwilling to spend at the financial level required for clients of their global profile.
Which makes sense from a business perspective. I mean, reputation management for A-list celebrities routinely costs well into the 6 figures annually. You're paying for rapid crisis response, long-term strategic planning, and 24/7 media monitoring. You simply cannot execute a flawless global strategy on a reduced budget.
You get what you pay for.
Right. And the source mentions former staff describing an internal dynamic where priorities would shift suddenly and decisions would be reversed without warning.
Which is a nightmare for PR.
Exactly. That forces a PR team out of a strategic mindset and into a state of permanent damage control.
And this pattern extends beyond their PR representation. It's visible deep inside their charitable organization, the Archwell Foundation.
Right, the foundation.
From its founding in 2020 through 2024, 18 staff members departed.
18.
In December 2025, James Holt, a longtime advisor who had been with Prince Harry for close to a decade and served as the foundation's executive director, announced his departure.
That's a massive loss of institutional knowledge.
Huge. The foundation even laid off 3 junior employees right before the holidays that year.
Ouch. And the financials for Archwell really paint a clear picture of the internal friction. The source notes that in their 2024 public financial filings, the foundation reported spending about $5.1 million, but they only brought in roughly $2.6 million in revenue.
That is a structural problem.
Right. When your spending doubles your revenue, you have to make up that difference by drawing down your reserves. It is the equivalent of having to tap into your savings account every month just to pay the electric bill because your paycheck shrank.
This raises an important question about their strategic resource allocation. Foundation expenses rose by more than half compared to the prior year.
Where was all that money going?
Well, this massive jump was widely linked to highly publicized international trips to Nigeria and Colombia. Furthermore, over $1 million went to outside global PR and advertising agencies.
Wow.
Meanwhile, the direct grants actually distributed to charitable causes were comparatively small.
And as a cost-saving measure amidst all this turnover, they promoted a London-based communications staffer to oversee their operations on an interim basis.
Which is a logistical nightmare.
Right. Managing California-based media strategy from the UK involves an 8-hour time difference. By the time the London staffer wakes up, the U.S. news cycle has already been churning for hours.
Rapid response becomes almost impossible.
Yeah. Without an integrated, well-funded PR shield, constantly pitching positive narratives and protecting your image, negative stories linger longer.
And that PR vulnerability directly impacts their commercial viability. If brands and studios see a team in constant flux, they become very cautious about associating with them. It becomes a question of reliability.
Here's where it gets really interesting. That PR exodus actually explains a lot about what we are seeing on the content side. Because without a team constantly generating goodwill and protecting your brand, getting people to actually click on your Netflix show becomes a massive uphill battle.
Absolutely.
Let's look at their streaming numbers. When they first partnered with Netflix, it seemed like a guaranteed goldmine. Their 2022 docuseries, Harry and Meghan, was a colossal hit. It pulled in about 81.6 million viewing hours in just its first week. It was Netflix's biggest documentary debut at the time.
What's fascinating here is the underlying motivation of the audience during that initial debut. That massive success was driven purely by global curiosity and the promise of untold secrets. It was the first time the couple sat down to tell their full story, detailing everything from the start of their relationship to the dramatic exit from royal life.
Right. It felt exclusive. It felt intimate.
But the data shows that once that specific curiosity was satisfied, the momentum completely evaporated.
Just gone.
The intense interest in their royal grievances did not translate into a loyal, long-term audience for their other endeavors.
The drop-off is honestly jarring when you look at the broader content slate. There is a massive disconnect between the prestige, legacy-building content they want to produce and the reality TV-style drama the audience actually wants to watch.
They want the gossip, not the prestige.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They released Live to Lead, a documentary series featuring thoughtful interviews with major global figures like Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Gloria Steinem. It didn't even chart in Netflix's top 10 anywhere.
Right.
Then there was Heart of Invictus in 2023, focusing on wounded veterans competing in the Invictus Games. This is a cause Prince Harry is genuinely passionate about, yet it reportedly drew only about 300,000 views.
The source analysis suggests that project suffered from a lack of narrative clarity, never quite deciding if it was a documentary about the resilient athletes or a behind-the-scenes look at Harry's management of the game.
Which is a shame.
And some projects never even made it to the screen. Pearl, an animated series Meghan developed, was canceled by Netflix during production in 2022 amidst company-wide budget cuts.
Then, in early 2025, they pivoted again, trying a lifestyle show called With Love, Meghan. It had high production values and featured appearances by recognizable names like Mindy Kaling and Chef Ray Choi.
It garnered 5.3 million views. In isolation, that number sounds respectable, but context is everything in streaming.
Right.
That viewership ranked the show an abysmal 389th on Netflix for the first half of the year.
389th. Wow.
Following that, Harry executive produced a 5-part documentary series about elite polo competitions in mid-2025. It attracted roughly 500,000 viewers. When you factor in that Netflix has over 260 million global subscribers, 500,000 views is essentially a rounding error. Critics overwhelmingly describe the polo series as dull and overly focused on an inaccessible world of immense wealth and privilege.
And we can't forget Spotify. They signed a reported $20 million deal in 2020, but it only produced one 12-episode season of Meghan's podcast, Archetypes.
Which did feature heavy-hitting guests like Serena Williams, Mariah Carey, and Paris Hilton.
It did. But Spotify outright canceled the deal in June 2023. Audio executives publicly hinted that the volume of output just didn't match the massive upfront investment.
The streaming giants are making purely market-based calculations. The internal data is telling them that beyond the initial royal drama, the wider audience simply isn't engaging with the content.
The numbers don't lie.
This professional and social judgment, from platforms refusing to renew development deals to PR firms declining to take them on as clients, is the actual crisis they are navigating. It's not a criminal sentencing. It is the rapid shrinking of industry opportunity.
If you are burning cash and those massive checks from books and streaming are suddenly in the rearview mirror, you are facing a severe financial squeeze.
And time is running out.
Right. With the Netflix deal expected to reach its natural end in 2026 without a renewal or replacement agreement, that reliable multi-year income stream vanishes.
Completely.
Harry's 2023 memoir, Spare, was incredibly lucrative. It sold 1.4 million copies on day one across major English-speaking markets, carrying an estimated $20 million to $40 million advance.
Huge numbers.
But you only get to sell your family secrets once. The shock value is gone, meaning a second book wouldn't command anywhere near that kind of advance.
Their income pipeline is rapidly constricting, but their astronomical overhead expenses remain rigidly fixed. Their home in Montecito cost $14.65 million.
That is a very expensive mortgage.
Real estate experts compare running a property of that magnitude, 18,000 square feet, sitting on over 5 acres of land, to the logistics of running a small luxury hotel.
A hotel.
Yes, it requires an estimated $1 million a year just for basic maintenance, utilities, and staffing. That includes $112,000 in property taxes in 2023 alone.
And security is a non-negotiable expense for figures of their global profile. Full-time, highly trained private protection is an absolute necessity.
Right, they can't just skip that.
The source estimates that logistical requirement costs between $2 million and $4 million annually. When you add in their business operations, the professional fees for the staff they do have, and Harry's substantial legal bills for his various British media lawsuits and the UK security appeal, the math gets very difficult.
Very difficult. We are looking at an estimated annual burn rate of $5 million to $7 million.
Wow.
To be clear, they are absolutely not broke. They own valuable, appreciating assets. But they are experiencing a massive financial squeeze that is remarkably common to athletes, musicians, and celebrities who earn massive windfalls early in their independent careers, but establish lifestyle overheads that require continuous massive windfalls to sustain.
It's the classic lottery winner trap.
Exactly. When your biggest income sources dry up, but your baseline burn rate is $7 million a year, you are inevitably dipping into your savings while scrambling to build a new revenue engine.
Right.
Meghan's lifestyle brand has shown some early consumer interest, but building a profitable, scalable consumer goods brand from scratch requires significant upfront capital investment and years of sustained focus.
So what does this all mean? If their prestige content is flopping and their PR infrastructure is crumbling, why are millions of people still endlessly clicking on these exaggerated downfall stories? Why is the clickbait thriving while the actual content struggles?
It taps into a very deep, almost primal psychological wiring. First, there's the concept of schadenfreude, the deeply ingrained human tendency to derive pleasure from the stumble or failure of high-status figures.
Yeah, people love to see the mighty fall.
Because they were literal royalty, watching them struggle to navigate the mundane realities of Hollywood capitalism creates a subconscious sense of leveling for some viewers. It makes immense privilege feel less absolute.
It's wild because this couple has essentially become a mirror for the culture wars. They are morally complex figures in the public eye, which makes their narrative deeply compelling to both sides of the political spectrum.
Absolutely.
And again, remaining totally neutral here. But if you lean left, you're likely looking at their story and seeing a narrative about systemic bias, institutional racism, and a toxic, intrusive tabloid culture that forced them to flee for their own safety.
Which earns deep sympathy.
Right. But if you lean right, you're probably looking at the exact same set of facts and seeing two highly privileged individuals who abandon their duty and tradition only to complain about their hardships from a multi-million-dollar mansion in California.
Both sides find endless proof for their pre-existing worldviews in every move the couple makes.
Exactly. And that polarization creates massive, highly emotional engagement.
Add to that the phenomenon of parasocial relationships. Millions of people feel like they know Harry and Meghan intimately, largely because the couple invited the public into their personal trauma.
With the Oprah interview in the book.
Exactly. So when they make controversial choices or face public setbacks, the audience experiences it with the urgency of a friend making a terrible mistake. The algorithms that govern YouTube and social media absolutely love this dynamic.
They feed on it.
They reward clicks, watch time, and furious infighting in the comment sections. Therefore, exaggerating the facts, claiming they are in $100 million of debt or facing imminent prison time becomes a highly effective, financially rewarded tool for capturing attention.
Right, it pays to lie.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it brings us to the present day, early 2026. The stakes for them right now are incredibly high, and the next 6 to 12 months represent a critical inflection point.
Yeah, this isn't just business as usual.
This isn't the dramatic, it's all over narrative pushed by the clickbait, but it is a genuine crossroads for their brand and their family.
The timeline right now is incredibly compressed. Harry's UK security appeal is currently unfolding in early 2026. If he wins that appeal and successfully gets his taxpayer-funded protection reinstated, it removes a massive logistical and financial hurdle for bringing his family back to British soil.
Which is critical because the Invictus Games are scheduled to be held in Birmingham in July 2026.
Right.
If they attend together, it would be their first highly visible official UK appearance as a family in years. Winning that security appeal could also open the door to attempting a genuine reconciliation with the royal family.
But there is a very real-time pressure dictating these moves. King Charles's ongoing battle with cancer creates an unavoidable sense of urgency.
Definitely.
If his health were to suddenly worsen, Harry might feel forced to return under incredibly stressful, highly scrutinized circumstances. Conversely, if Charles remains stable, the window for reconciliation might naturally close as Prince William continues to consolidate his influence and take on a more central role in managing the institution.
That family dynamic is shifting fast.
There's also the pressure of their children's ages. Archie's now 6, and Lily is 4. As the source notes, they are entering that critical developmental window where they are old enough to form lasting memories of family dynamics, but still young enough that connections with their British relatives, their grandfather, and their cousins could be authentically built.
Right. That window closes soon.
The longer the couple waits to bridge that gap, the harder it becomes to integrate the children into that side of their heritage. If they don't pivot soon, they really only have a few options left on the table.
They are essentially facing 3 potential paths forward.
Okay, what's path 1?
Path 1, they completely overhaul their strategy, quietly reduce their overarching public profile, figure out why they cannot retain PR staff, and focus solely on building genuine, unassailable expertise in one specific area.
Interesting.
For example, Harry could completely dedicate himself to the operational success of the Invictus Games, moving away from entertainment entirely.
Okay, what's path 2?
Path 2, they accept the harsh financial reality of their overhead and start taking on the kind of purely commercial brand sponsorship projects they previously avoided, simply to generate the cash flow needed to maintain their lifestyle.
Like doing traditional commercials.
Exactly.
Because if they don't lean into the charity work or pivot to commercial endorsements, the math just doesn't work. The only other outcome is a slow fade.
That is path 3. It is the default trajectory if they fail to make major strategic changes. It is a gradual fade into cultural and financial irrelevance. They would certainly remain famous enough to generate tabloid headlines, but their actual cultural significance would slowly erode as they move from one unsuccessful project to the next without securing any major wins.
To sum it all up for you listening, the truth here is far less explosive, but honestly so much more fascinating than the clickbait.
So much more.
This isn't a story of a sudden criminal collapse or fictional $100 million debts. It is a modern cautionary tale. It's about misaligned PR strategies, the crushing weight of astronomical financial overheads, and the incredibly difficult struggle of trying to convert intense initial public curiosity into long-term sustainable relevance.
They bet everything on a strategy of telling their side of the story.
Exactly. But once the story was told, the audience didn't stick around for the second act.
This raises an important question to leave you with, something to mull over as you navigate your own media feeds. This couple built a massive global brand that was primarily defined by the dramatic act of walking away from an ancient institution. But if your entire public identity is rooted in an exit, what happens when you finally run out of stories to tell about the place you left behind? Can a brand built entirely on the premise of leaving ever truly arrive somewhere new?
That is a phenomenal question to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the real mechanics of fame, finances, and the modern media machine. We hope this helped clear the noise and gave you a clearer picture of the reality behind the headlines. Until next time, stay curious.